Welkom bij Zeldzaam Dwars met in dit uur een tweetal specials. Over een kleine 40 minuten een portret van Tomu Tontu met zijn free folk uit Finland. Nu eerst de uit San Francisco afkomstige zingende harpiste Joanna Newsom, die ruim een half jaar geleden debuteerde op het label Drag City met opvallende cd The Milk-Eyed Mender. Dadelijk het gesprek dat ik met haar had, maar om te beginnen de sessieopname Swansea.
If you wanna come on down with your bones so white, watch while the freight trains pound into the wild, wild night. How I would love to know on your bones so white, and watch while the freight trains paw at the wild, wild night. All these ghost towns within no long Massatigny, deep and sea foam, Swansea, Baton Willow, Lagunitas, whole Calico, and all these beastly bungalows stare distant like endless toads, endlessly hop down the road, borne by wind we southward, blowing yonder wild and blue. The wild blue yonder looms till we are wrapped with room by roads and by songs entombed. I know we wanna do. It's true and true and true, dear one. Drive on. When all we wanna do is true and true and true. And if you wanna come on down with your bones so white, watch while the freight trains pound into the wild, 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 wild night. How I would love to know on your bones so white, and watch while the freight trains paw at the wild, wild night. Paw at the wild, wild night. Paw at the wild, wild night.
Swansea, was dat? Zoals gespeeld door Joanna Newsom tijdens haar sessie voor Dwars op 12 november vorig jaar hier in Studio de Smet. Uit Californië komt deze begin 20 jaar oude, klassiek opgeleide harpiste, die voor het schrijven van haar liedjes veel inspiratie vond bij de oude Appalachian murder ballads en country blues zangeres als Elizabeth Cotton en Texas Gladden. Met haar zeer eigenzinnige manier van folkmuziek herinterpreteren en haar karaktervolle stem, eentje waarvoor je gaat of haat, zou het zomaar kunnen zijn dat zij de tweelingzus van Defender Barnard is. Een overeenkomst die je ook terugvindt in haar liedjes vol met vreemde en wonderlijke teksten en die bij al te oppervlakkig luisteren regelmatig door journalisten als sprookjesachtig en naïef kinderlijk wordt omschreven. En dit is slechts deels terecht, want Joanna gebruikt in haar teksten dezelfde oprechte verwondering die kinderen hebben, zoals hun onbevangen interesse in de dood of het ongegeneerd openstaan voor verdriet. Joanna Newsom.
I've recoiled from associations with childhood that a lot of reviewers have made and interviewers have made, but one reason is that they tend towards this version of childhood that is innocent and naive. I do feel a connection with the part with childhood in a kind of deeper sense, and I feel a deep connection with that way of thinking, and also the capacity to look things straight on without any taboo or without any fear. The capacity to look at death like that. And I would even take it further to say I feel a connection to the part of childhood that makes us morbidly curious. You know, the way children want to see, you know, dead things. They want to see, you know, like the roadkill, the animals that get hit by a car, you know, drive by it and they crane their necks to look. And the way that, you know, children sometimes sit up in the middle of the night and allow themselves to think about frightening things, even if they know it will frighten them. It is this boundless receptiveness to every aspect of the world. The ability to feel sadness without being blunted. The ability to feel sadness about all the terrible things without having accumulated a thick skin and a callousedness that makes us not be able to feel the full weight of sadness anymore. I feel a connection to those things, and I do feel a connection to the way of sort of free associating as well. I think that's all true. I think it starts when we're born. I think that the world is not conducive to that way of thinking. And I do think probably doing not just creative writing, but also just playing and writing music for years is almost like, not to be gross, but it's almost like keeping a wound open, like pulling the scab off over and over again. If it's an open place, if it's a fissure between like the world and me, like it's almost like doing these types of work all my life. I feel like it's keeping that place open.
Sadie, white coat, you carry me home and carry this bone and take this pine cone, no, bury this bone to gnaw on it later, knowing on the telephone. Until then we pray and suspend the notion that these lives do never end. And all day long we talk about mercy. Lead me to water, Lord, I sure am thirsty. Down in the ditch where I nearly served you. Up in the clouds where we almost hurt you. And all that we built and all that we breathed up in turns till the silence crept over me. And bless you, and I deeply do, no longer resolute, and I call to you, but the water got so cold, and you do lose what you don't hold. This is an old song, these are old blues, and this is not my tune, but it's mine to use. And the seabirds, where the fear once grew, will flock with a fury, and they will bury would it come for you, and down where I darn with the milk I'd minder. You and I, and a love so tender, stretched on the hoop where I stitched this adage. Bless our house and its heart so savage, and all that I want, and all that I need, and all that I got is scattered like seed, and all that I knew is moving away from me. And all that I know is blowing like tumbleweed. And the mealy worms in the brine will burn in a salty pyro among the fawns and ferns. And the love we hold and the love we spurn will never go cold, no, only toss it turn. And I'll tell you tomorrow, oh Sadie, go on home now, and bless those who sick and below, but bless us who have chosen so. And all that I got, and all that I need, I tie and I knot, that I lay at your feet, and I have not forgot what the silence crept over me. So dig up your bone, exhume your pine cone, Miss Sadie.
Joanna Newsom speelde tijdens haar sessie Sadie, een nummer dat ook te vinden is op haar debuut-cd The Milk-Eyed Mander. Al vanaf zeer jong is Joanna geobsedeerd door de harp, dat wonderlijke 2 meter hoge instrument. Vanaf haar 8e mag ze van haar harplerares ook echt les nemen. Verschillende technieken, compositie en improvisatie krijgt ze dan ook al vanaf het begin mee. Later, tijdens een vakantiekamp, leert ze ook de kora kennen. En de kenmerkende speeltechniek van deze West-Afrikaanse harp ging ze ook op haar eigen concertharp gebruiken. Maar het blijft toch wonderlijk dat iemand in de alternatieve muziek de harp als instrument uitkiest. Joanna Newsom.
I think probably I was never exposed to any of the associations that many people have with the harp, particularly the negative ones. I started playing when I was very young, and I fell in love with the harp even earlier. I started begging my parents to let me take harp lessons when I was about 4 years old. And I don't know where I saw the harp or where I heard the harp or what gave me that notion, what made me want to learn it. But when I started playing finally, I was about 8 years old because the local harp teacher wouldn't take students younger than 8. So I languished in piano lessons from 5 to 8. When I finally started taking harp, I didn't really have much of a frame of reference. I didn't listen to Harpo Marx records or really have any idea how the harp was perceived in society. My reaction to it was a very physical one. It's a really magical instrument, and I could actually probably talk for hours about all the specific things that make the harp so wonderful to play. But quite simply, they're qualities that even a young child can feel instantly, I think. And I did fall in love with the instrument when I was about 8. And my teacher really encouraged improvisation and composition from a very early age, from the first lesson onward. So on the one hand, I was learning these Western classical pieces, sort of old classics and building up a classical repertoire. But on the other hand, I was learning Celtic music. I was learning, pop music. And starting at about age 10, I went to a music camp, a folk music camp every summer, where I got introduced to West African harp styles. I didn't actually play the kora, but a lot of the figures that are played on the kora were transposed for me by a kora player and taught to me. And I think that was a huge influence as well in my playing style. So, I don't know, I have a relationship with the harp that's, I think is different from maybe someone who grew up in a more, in a bigger city where they were kind of exposed to harp music in a popular culture sense.
Oh, where is your inflammatory writ? Your text that would inside a night be lit. Our music deserving devotion, unswerving cry, do I deserve her with the unflagging fervor? Well, no, we do not if we cannot get over it. And what's it mean when suddenly we're spent? Tell me true, ambition came and reared its head and went far from you. Even mollusks have weddings, though solemn and leaden, but you dirge for the dead, take no jam on your bread, just a supper of salt, and it walks through your empty bed. And all at once it came to me, and I hunched in the road till 4:30. But that vestal light, it burns out with the night, in spite of all the time that we spend on it. One bedraggled ghost of a sonnet, well, outside a wild boar's route, without bending a bough underfoot. Oh, it breaks my heart, I don't know how they do it. So don't ask me, and as for my inflammatory writ, well, I wrote it and I was not inflamed one bit. Advice from the master derailed that disaster. He said, hand that pen over to me, poetaster. We'll cross the great plains, keen and lovely and awful. You late the lost great American novels, an unlawful lot left to stutter and freeze floodlit. But at least they didn't run to their undying credit.
Je hoorde Inflammatory Writ door Joanna Newsom, opgenomen tijdens de sessie die zij deed voor Dwars in november vorig jaar. Inflammatory Writ is in een oorspronkelijke versie ook te vinden op haar debuut-cd, The Milk Mender, die uitkwam op Drag City Records. Het authentieke van Joanna Newsoms muziek is voor een groot deel terug te leiden tot haar opvoeding. Zij groeide op in Nevada City, een voormalig goudzoekersdorp in het noorden van Californië. Een beschermd hippie- en kunstenaarsmilieu met buren als componist Terry Riley en folkzanger Utah Phillips. De televisie was in huize Newsom taboe en werd zij door haar ouders aangemoedigd om vooral zichzelf te zijn en om zich onbevangen te ontplooien. Zo ook werd er bij Joanna Newsom thuis, er was een enorme platencollectie, zonder onderscheid naar zowel klassieke muziek, allerlei soorten folk en veel naar wereldmuziek geluisterd. Al met al een veilige en onbekommerde jeugd en een tamelijk klassieke opvoeding.
I think it was classical in some ways, but it was classical in the sense that a lot of the repertoire I was learning was classical, and a lot of the music I listened to, a lot of the recorded music I listened to was classical. But I think we had a very non-classical mentality. It wasn't like greater value was placed on these classical musics. My mom in particular is very, very into world music, and a lot of folk forms and world forms were played alongside classical music in my house, and equal emphasis was placed on them. So we didn't really have a classicist way of approaching music. I do think that I was always encouraged to be myself. I know that's sort of an oversimplification, but and I do think that a lot of the music I was exposed to was a constant reminder of the importance of finding one's own musical voice. Nothing was ever presented to me as the right way of being a musician or the proper way to write music. It was just a series of touchstones or sources of inspiration. As far as preserving a sense of self, I do think that the town I came from helped. And you know, I wasn't allowed. We had no TV in my house growing up. Television got outlawed when I was about 8 or 9, I think. We had, as a babysitter, let us watch a scary movie, and we had nightmares for weeks, and so my mom took away the TV, and we never had it again. And the town itself is somewhat sheltered. It's really safe, and it's really artistic. It's a really strong artistic community. There's a lot of really inspiring people there. The composer Terry Riley lives there, and the poet Gary Snyder lives there, and you know, the folk singer Utah Phillips lives there. We just have a lot of strong creative forces, and I think that those were great inspiration to me.
Na haar middelbare school verhuisde Joanna Newsom naar San Francisco om compositie te gaan studeren aan Mills College. Een universiteit met reputatie. Veel bekende componisten doseren hier. Voor haar werd de studie alleen steeds frustrerender omdat zij afwijkende muzikale idealen had ten opzichte van de meeste andere studenten, die enkel in experimentele computermuziek geïnteresseerd waren en zij juist steeds meer in de op folktraditie gebaseerde liedjes. Na 3 jaar veranderde zij van studierichting. Het werd creatief schrijven. Tegelijkertijd leerde zij met het luisteren naar oude folkopnamen van muzikanten uit de Appalachian Mountains met rauwe en ongepolijste stemmen ook haar eigen stem accepteren. De muzikante Joanna Newsom was geboren.
I moved to San Francisco right after high school. I went to Mills College to study composition, which for years, you know, since probably I was about 12 or 13, I had decided I wanted to be a composer. You know, in the formal sense, I didn't really have a great concept of what that meant. But I went to this school that I researched, and I thought it was supposed to be the best, you know, that all the best composers taught there and all the best composers came out of there. And then I got there and sort of within a few years got really discouraged, began to realize that my music wasn't really benefiting from the workshop environment because it wasn't in any sort of dialogue with the other music, that the experimentalism around me had moved to a point where people's goals for their music were different from my goals for my music, and other students' music was built on tenets that you know, were really foreign to me. And mine was built on ideas that were considered very passé, that everyone was making music on computers only. Some of it very beautiful, some of it very interesting, but none of it, it was difficult to draw any sort of a line between what was being worked on around me and what I was working on. So I moved to go to this school and then kind of felt stagnant for a little while. Continued maybe 3 years studying there. And then I switched out of the composition program and I switched into the writing program, the creative writing. And I started to view my music as adhering more closely to the traditional song form than to the experimental new music form. And so I did start framing my songs as songs. And I was also in an American music class at that time where I was listening to a lot of old field recordings of ballad singers. And I think got some encouragement from those recordings because I've always had this voice that has always been somewhat cumbersome and unwieldy, and I've never been able to groom it or change it. And listening to these old folk recordings made me start to view my voice as a potential instrument at my disposal. That to think of it, to think of the difference between my voice and other voices as just a difference in the shape of the sound wave. The way a flute has a smooth sound wave and a violin has a jagged sound wave, but we don't really think of a violin as ugly and a flute as beautiful. It's just they have a different color. And so many of these old Appalachian singers had a voice that was of a different color than is conventionally considered beautiful in this society. But those songs are so moving and touched me so deeply, and it was a reminder at that point.
Run rare and you've changed
Dat was Joanna Newsom met Peach, Plum, Pear. Zoals ze speelde tijdens haar sessie hier in Studio de Smet op 12 november vorig jaar. En je luistert naar de VPRO op 747M. Naar Dwars, de donderdagavondbijdrage van het werkdagelijkse muziekprogramma Zeldzaam. En in Dwars vanavond een portret van de Californische zangeres en harpiste Joanna Newsom. Met een nieuwe jonge generatie van muzikanten, zoals bijvoorbeeld The Jaspers, Iron and Wine, Little Wings, PG6, Six Organs of Admittance, Defender Barnard en Joanna Newsom zelf, wordt met name door de media, met het gebruik van termen als New Folk en New Word America, ten onrechte de indruk gewekt dat het hier om echt iets nieuws zou gaan. Onzin natuurlijk, want het is slechts een hernieuwde interesse in oude liedtradities, met hooguit een originele persoonlijke benadering en individuele creativiteit. Zoals hiervoor eerder ook al Will Oldham, Smog en Mira met hetzelfde bezig waren. Al moet worden gezegd dat door de aandacht die met name Defender Barnard krijgt in de pers, er wel een terechte, weliswaar rijkelijk late, waardering gekomen is voor folkmuzikanten uit de late 60 jaren als Vasti Bunyan en Linda Perhawks. Joanna Newsom.
The use of the word new, you know, everyone talks about new folk, new weird America, da da da. That's false. It's a new wave of interest in the media. It's a new redirection of the collective gaze. Everyone sort of scrutinizing this type of music that, to whatever extent it can be called a genre, which I think is a big stretch of the word, but to whatever extent it can be called that, it has been that for years. You know, there's been people like Will Oldham and Bill Callahan from Smog and Fawn Fables and Mira, a number of people who've been making records that could be considered of the same loose association of music for a long time and have been making it. I mean, not to say that they haven't been noticed because they've gotten huge amounts of notice, but it's been looked at singularly, that they are singular artists as opposed to members of some movement. And it is frustrating to me that this is being perceived as a scene or a movement, especially because it has its death built right into it. There's an arc to that sort of thing. Whereas if they're looked at as individuals creating music, then, you know, people can pick and choose and see who they connect with and continue to have sustained interest in that music. I mean, someone like Devendra, when he talks about Vashti Bunyan or Linda Perhawks or Karen Dalton or Fred Neil or anything like that in interviews, he has an honest desire for people to hear that music. And I do think there's some connection between the fact that he, for example, has been mentioning those people in interviews for the last 2 years. I think that has helped to drum up some interest. And for someone like Vashti Bunyan, I think it's been a really positive thing because she's been able to understand what a wonderful effect she's had on people's lives. But I also agree with you that there is something that feels contrived about everybody getting into it, you know, like the public getting into it and with the same kind of herd mentality that is driving them to call this the new weird America or whatever. You know, it's all part of that same kind of mentality.
That means no. Where I come from, I am cold, out waiting for the day to come. I chew my lips, oh, and I scratch my nose. Feels so good to be a rose. Oh, don't you lift me up, ooh, like I'm that shy. No, 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 just give it up. Oh, there are bats all dissolving in a row. Oh, into the wishy-washy dark that cannot let go. And I cannot let go. And so I thank the Lord, ooh, and I thank His sword, though it be machines are dropped from great heights lovingly, and some great bellies ache with many bumblebees, and they sting so terribly. I do as I please, but now I'm on my knees, and your skin is something that I stir into my tea, and I am watching you, and you are starry, 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 and I'm tumbling down, and I check a frown. Well, just look around. That's why I love this town. Just see me standing